Hey, Coach. I'm
Hey, Ira.
guessing it's going. I'm guessing it's going to be a similar experience to what Coach Dillingham and Norvell were saying. But if you could just kind of share with us the surreal, I guess, experience Saturday morning and what you saw from the players the rest of that day and the weekend.
Well, I mean, we were in pregame meal, as obviously everybody has gone through, and Mike kind of tapped me on the shoulder, grabbed me in the hallway, gave me a heads up. We told the team shortly after. I think the players had a little bit of a feeling that something was going on, just because usually there's a break in time between the final meal, the final meeting, and we were kind of keeping them in the room there. So, it was, I don't want to use the word shocking, but, it was definitely, there's a build up to a game that you have mentally from a focus standpoint, anticipation standpoint, and for that to be abbreviated or halted, definitely it gave a real surreal feeling. So, I think our players responded well. I made sure to grab each guy on defense as they came off the bus and, kind of grab them individually as we worked towards. A lot of them kind of went on the field to get a workout in because it would have been a day that they would have gotten that type of work in, and some went into the treatment room. So I called my wife. She didn't really answer me. She says, so I'm not getting in the car right now. And then she had to come pick me up anyways. But it was definitely different, and didn't anticipate it happening at all. And obviously disappointed because you put a lot of work into going out and playing on Saturdays.
Back to Ira.
Just following up on where you guys are at right now. I mean, it almost kind of becomes a bye week, although it wasn't a bye week. And you're game planning and preparing. But how do you adjust in terms of from a preparation standpoint? Transitioning from that game plan to this next game plan, but also working on your own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally like we played a game at this point, Ira. Besides, the results of the game, that game plan is what that was, and you start anew, and just like some plans, there are sometimes you do things in a game and it'll carry over from opponents. So, maybe that may take place a little bit, that you'll steal from one plan and add to another. But you didn't rest because it wasn't a bye week. You prepared. You had your traditional Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and traditional Saturday. You just didn't get that 3 hours of competition on Saturday. But, Sunday was Sunday. You just had guys that were less banged up because it wasn't a game they were coming from. But other than that, it's not much different.
Going to Perry from Tomahawk.
I might be inaccurate here, but I think this week's depth chart is the first where there hasn't been many players moving around. I know it's not exactly like set in stone, that's who's going to play, but what kind of consistency does that help you out with? I know in the beginning of the season, you were waiting for players to kind of step up and take the reins.
Yeah, well, we were still getting a few guys back in that NC State game, and we were hopeful to get a few more guys back last week against Clemson. And, up until that morning, we were hoping that we were going to have 2 or 3 guys. So, now we have an extra week. So hopefully that will develop, Perry, a little bit more continuity, especially in the back end this week. So we're counting on that happening.
Going to Chris Nee.
Hey, Coach, what are the challenges that Virginia presents on offense, and what do they kind of test a defense at doing?
Well, they've kind of gotten in sync here the last couple of weeks. I know they've won their last 3. They've been able to, last week, in their last game there, they threw the ball successfully a lot more. But, anytime you have a quarterback back there that can run and throw the ball, that causes some issues. They play with a lot of different personnel groups. They've got a really good scheme as far as running the football, which has created some easy throws for them. They're a well-rounded team. When they've had to go over 40 to beat North Carolina, they did that. They've played some close games against Miami. So they've won a couple different ways. They've lost a couple different ways. But they're probably playing their best football right now. And it starts with the quarterback. I think he's done a really good job here, especially as of late, just taking what the defense gives them. And anytime you can run the ball with volume the way they've run it with multiple ball carriers, formationally and schematically, it gives you a chance, especially if you're playing good defense. They've obviously coming off their most successful stretch of this season. So, those are just some of the things that jumped out, Chris.
Going back to Ira.
You mentioned how many different things they do offensively, and I know they've had a bunch of different guys take snaps and things like that. What are they the team you guys, do they look now like what you guys expected them to look like when you guys did your advanced scouting back in the summer or in preseason, or had they changed much through the course of the season?
Yeah, back then, obviously, the quarterback position has changed because of the guy that graduated from last year. But, yeah, I mean, you knew that they were multiple in how they basically painted the picture of how they wanted to move the football. It wasn't always going to be the same, but the plays were going to be the same. So, I think they're probably identifying exactly the way they thought they would be now. You just don't want to judge it by points because they have been putting them points the last 3 weeks. But I think they play aggressively, as far as how they call the game, and how they execute in the run game. So I think it's similar to what we thought it was going to be. Obviously, the pieces are a little bit different, so you're still trying to, but, I think they're very comfortable with who they have playing now and how they're moving those pieces around and how they're creating offense for the pieces that are the main pieces on their offense right now.
Back to Ira.
And I know you didn't have Corey for the last game either, but now that he's apparently moved on, losing him and Marvin, where are you at in terms of defensive tackle depth, and how do you feel about that position?
Well, I think Dennis has made strides. Obviously, his season got expedited there when we were able to bring him back. Fabian has been. He started off well, then got banged up, missed the game there, and then came back on a short practice week. But the last couple of weeks has been his better weeks of practice. I thought the NC State game, he did a really nice job, so I think he's playing his best football. Coop's somebody we continue to push to try and continue to develop, but he's had some impactful plays. We just need more of them. And then True Thompson has seen more reps. So, that's helped. With the news with Jarrett Jackson, we're trying to get him in the fold. He's, again, hasn't really been involved at all and been on scout team and, just trying to get into playing shape. And, so just, a little bit different than the way it started out, but definitely, I'm happy with Dennis, Fabian, Coop continues to come along, True, and then there's some other those guys with Malcolm Ray and Jarrett Jackson that we got to continue to bring along.
Going to Bob Ferrante.
Coach, I think Mike Norvell said last week that Hamsa did about 20 or 25 snaps against NC State. As he progresses in this comeback, do you kind of have a number in mind or how much of a progression he could take in these coming games?
Yeah, I mean, we were progressing in this next game into we were going to try to at least double the snaps, if not more. So, it's like one thing, like last week against NC State, well, let's get the first series in. It went well. Let's get to this. We knew there was going to be a end game as far as reps because of just how much he was allowed to practice. But yeah, it's a continued progression. The reps definitely won't go down as long as he's feeling well. They'll only go up.
Anything else for Coach Fuller?